right, we got a special guest in the building. We got the one and only. She's laughing already, y'all. The one and only, my favorite financial expert, Elisa Jones. How you doing, Elisa?
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Wonderful. Now, I say this to every guest, but I know you are super busy, so I'm not going to waste any time. We diving straight in. Before we get to the meat of today, I like for us to get a chance to know you a little better. So a couple rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite childhood book?
Childhood book. Oh my God.
Caught her slipping.
Probably, I don't know, Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood. That's a good one. We might have to psychologically dissect you later, but you will figure it out. Favorite potato chip?
Oh, I'm not a big chip eater, but I will tear up some Funyuns.
Really? So you don't consider Funyuns chips?
No.
So what are they?
They're fake onion things.
They are potato chips. In case all my
potato chips.
They are potato chips. In case all my guests need to know, Elisa is a true foodie and she's a great cook, but she also posts stuff on Instagram that makes your mouth just drop to the floor hungry. So I knew I'd get a good answer, and I thought for sure you had some special potato chip growing up, and you hollered out Funyuns. All right, favorite Bible character.
Oh, I would say Ruth.
That's what my mom said.
Really?
Yeah. Tell me why you say Ruth.
I love your mom. I love your mom.
She happens to be pretty awesome.
I would say just shows perseverance, resilience, definitely characteristics that I'd like to think that I embody. So she's the first person that comes to mind. Job would be a close second, though.
For the patience?
Job, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know if you've been through it like Job, you know. Yeah.
No.
Don't want to, huh?
These kids, they try, you know.
Yeah, trust me, I know it. All right. Favorite book dealing with finances?
I would say The Millionaire Next Door.
The Millionaire Next Door. So everybody needs to read The Millionaire Next Door. All right. I'm putting that on my list too.
Oldie. Yeah, it's an oldie, but a goodie.
Oldie, but goodie. I'll take it. Favorite stock that you own?
In a portfolio now, I'm rolling heavy with some of the airlines right now. So Southwest and Delta.
So right now, aren't they like low? But knowing they're gonna be skyrocket back up. I didn't think about that.
They're definitely down right now. Well, travel and leisure overall is down. So those were probably my most recent purchases this year. So
I got $8. You think I can get me a few stocks?
I think they're running like 20 a share, give or take. So.
All right, let me go grab me some Southwest. All right, and the final question before we jump in is, what is your favorite book of the Bible?
Oh, Proverbs.
Me too. All right. Yeah. See? Yeah, I knew there was a reason why you were my favorite financial advisor.
So much wisdom.
So much wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think I told you this before. Years ago when we first met, I met with one of your former clients, or he may still be a client, but we was out on the golf course, I think, and he was like, listen.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He was like, listen, if you listen to me now, he gave me that like daddy voice. Listen to me.
Yeah.
You just now starting to teach. You got 30 years to teach. You need to call this woman, and if you do exactly what she tells you, you're going to retire a millionaire. I said, yes, sir. And I called you up. Now, I checked my statements the other day, and I'm not a millionaire yet.
Not yet.
I'm
not
thinking
yet.
You slacking on me. I'm just
That's so funny.
Know what's going on. But
I actually just talked to him 2 weeks ago. It was his birthday. So
okay. Yeah.
He and I had a really good conversation.
Well, good. I'm hoping that one day you'll call me on my birthday when I'm a millionaire. All right. So tell me a little bit about how you came to know God. How did you come to give God your heart? Like what is it? Mom took you to church, granny? Like what was that story like?
Yeah. It was definitely Granny for sure. Um, we've always either lived with my grandmother or she lived with us growing up. And so before we moved to Alabama, we lived in Chicago on the South Side, and
South Side.
I distinctly remember going to church 3 times a week. And, Granny was one of the deaconesses, if you will, of the church. And we would be there for Bible study, and we'd go back for Sunday school and then regular Sunday service and
Mm.
just all of the services we
Just
were there.
churched out. That's what I'm
Yes.
talking about. All right.
Yes.
So now you moved from Chicago to Alabama. Was church real big still in Alabama, or did it kind of like sizzle down some?
It sizzled down some, but also denomination change,
Okay.
which, that is what it is. But it was a little bit different because then I was going with my mom, and the style of church was different than what I was used to. And
What were you
so,
used to in Chicago?
well, we were Kojic.
Okay.
So, and then when we moved to Alabama, it was Missionary Baptist.
Uh-oh.
So,
I heard the ha.
So it was a little bit different, but the word was still there. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
So you got you a nice, well-rounded
Yes.
scriptural base. All right. All right. So tell me, what drew you to numbers? What drew you to finance? How did you get into this business?
Well, it was funny enough because my initial major was computer science. And once I realized that isn't a very interpersonal field to go into with coding and all of that, finance just kind of came up secondary. So I ended up getting my degree in finance and my minor in computer science.
So brilliance. See, I didn't know you was a computer girl too, man.
I did a little coding back in the day.
Uh-oh. Hacked a few accounts, did we? She's pleading the fifth. She's pleading the fifth on that one. All right. So what is the best financial advice you've ever been given? And it can even go back to when you were a little girl. What is the best financial advice you've ever been given?
Don't spend all you have.
Don't spend all you got.
Yep.
It's so simple, but so profound, huh?
Man, I'm telling you.
Because most of us spend more than what we got, plus more than what we can borrow, huh?
That's true.
Wow.
That's true. So that was probably one of the most basic tenets growing up. And it's something that I've had to kind of grow into. But, we all kind of develop in our own way.
Yeah. So what are some creative methods you use to teach your own children about finances?
Well, it's funny because, kids kind of have their own personalities early on. So you can already kind of tell who has a spending personality and a saving personality. And so just initially, one of the main things is to give. Give. And so not give because you want it to come back to you, but give because you want your heart to be in the right place.
Right.
And just kind of instill that. So that's kind of the primary thing. And then, putting money aside for something that you may want to purchase, down the road. So even though those are very basic things, it's something that I want them to catch on to early.
Yeah. So the delayed gratification, hang on, wait, work for what you want, save for what you want, and don't forget to be a giver. It's funny that you said give, because my next thing in my notes that I was going to say is that I've watched through the years at how you have such a giving heart. I see you support a lot of different things. Even, I think you've bought both of my books, maybe all 3 of them. I can't remember. I mean, I see you on Facebook and you're supporting some in Alabama A&M. Yeah, A&M. I almost said state. Sorry.
Those fighting words.
Right. So I've seen, I just watch all the time how even on your birthday, you donate your birthday gifts to a cause or something like that. Always have a giving mindset. Why do you think you're such a giver? Like, how did that happen to you?
That's a really good question. I think that part of it is when you have grown up without or with less than. And and not everybody comes full circle in that way. So that's a very good question, actually. But I think for me, that's what it was, I've experienced what it's like to grow up with a parent on welfare, experience what it's like to grow up with a single household parent that makes less than what the median income is in the country. And so I never forget the first time I saw my mom's paycheck. And I was like, how are we living? Oh my God.
Like, Mama, I ain't finna ask for nothing else ever again. Can I get some Skittles? You know what? Why am I asking for Skittles?
Yes, it was.
Lucky to have some bread and milk.
I was either in middle school or high school at the time. And I just remember thinking, like, how are we making ends meet off of this?
Wow.
And so, with that being said, I have a full understanding that there are people with less than. So I want to, even with, volunteering and things like that, it's a point of mine to make sure that my kids understand that. And they don't always like it, but at the end of the day, they don't have to. And so that's just something that has always been near and dear to me.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you are actually segueing to my questions before I could get to them. So you making it so easy. You're like the perfect guest. So my next statement that I had in my notes to ask you, I heard years ago from a financial guru, is it Susie Orman? Yeah, I heard her say either on a audio book or some recording, but she said most people, when you grow up without money, you handle money in two different ways. One, you spend all you got buying all the stuff you couldn't have growing up, or two, you don't spend anything. You're super tight because you don't want to be broke again. And I find myself more so in the hold on. I'm very slow to spend. I just want to get your thoughts on that statement. Do you find that to be true in your dealings with people as well? Or, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's one end or the other of the spectrum, but I think people can change that over time. So I think when you're younger and less mature, I think that, yes, you definitely spend more, whether it's shopping or, lavish, items and things of that nature. But then I think once you come to a age of maturity where you understand that it's not about necessarily the short term, being more long term focused,
right.
Then I think that's when it shifts. Like I said, because I haven't always been this way. So it's something that I had to come into. And that's even and still giving advice, the past 20 years on how to, spend, save, and invest. But it's still something personally that I had to develop into myself.
Yeah. It's funny because my senior year, I'll never forget when this light bulb went off in my head. I was getting up in the morning to get dressed for school, and I looked in my closet and I'm like picking which jersey do I want to wear? Which shoes do I want to match it with? And then I got in my car and realized, man, I was low on gas. I didn't even have any gas money. I got $10,000 worth of clothes and shoes in the closet and no money in my pocket. And I was like, this is dumb. How many pair of shoes can you wear? One. How many outfits do you really need? You know what? I'd rather have money in my pocket than to have all these clothes and shoes. And from that moment on, I think, now, don't get me wrong, I've still made some foolish purchases and things like that, but I'm always slower to spend than I was initially because of that situation. At least that's what I think happened to me.
Yes.
People quote scripture and they say that money is the root of all evil. And they misquote that one because the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. But then I started thinking too, the lack of money is also a motivation for evil people or evil things. So tell me a little bit about what your feelings are concerning that verse. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Well, it's funny once again that you bring that up. I think that there has to be, at least for me, there had to be a shift of my thought process about money in general and about wealth. And so when people say, the love of the money is the root of all evil, it's like, okay, so if I am building wealth and acquiring wealth and working on leaving a legacy, that's not necessarily evil,
Right.
but my mindset towards it, am I still giving? Am I still, doing the things that's necessary towards that? Or am I just trying to hoard it just, so I could buy yachts and, all of these different things. So I think there has to be a shift of what, number one, what it means to gain wealth. And even within that, because it's still a lot of us that just feel like wealthy people are evil.
Right.
And so that's not the right mindset necessarily to have. I mean, there's evil poor people and there's evil wealthy people. So, but for some reason, I know, at least from my experience, our culture tends to think of wealthy people as being evil, or that they've done something evil or sinister, to acquire this wealth.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I had to think to myself, okay, if I want to gain wealth so that I can give and build God's kingdom and leave a legacy for my children, why would I have a mindset that wealth equals evil? And so that took some time for me to kind of shift my mindset around that. And of course, dealing with clients that have millions of dollars invested with our company, it's something that I'm around these people. And so I can speak to the fact that they're not all evil.
Right,
and so some of them have really big hearts and really big giving spirits. And some of them don't, honestly, but it's what are you going to do with the tools that you have and the resources that you've put aside and the wealth that you've built, the legacy that you want to leave. So I disagree definitely with the, money's evil, money equals evil. But yes, definitely the selfish gain of it without the right heart and the right intent definitely can shift you to do evil things. So
yeah. And one of my favorite, and because all of these are actually in Timothy, one of my favorite verses is 1 Timothy 6:6, and it says, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." And I think about how, like, when you're counseling people, how often do you see discontent is like the main culprit in what's keeping them from walking in their greatest financial life?
We see that pretty regularly, I will say. And it's just, it's so funny because the heart wants what the heart wants, or the flesh wants what the flesh wants. And so when we sit down with clients and we discuss what their goals are for the future, and you can kind of tell which way they're going. A lot of people are talking about leaving money to foundations or research, or like I said, for their great grandchildren to build that legacy. And some people's like, you know what, I just want to save this money and, I want to get a beach house, in, I don't know, wherever. And that's fine too. But then they're struggling day to day to pay bills. And so just finding a balance between the two and just really digging deeper with people to determine, well, why do you think this is important? Why is this important to you? But you will forego, your day to day in order to, save for the long term. So just trying to dig deeper with people and really determine, what's the underlying, because we all have, our history pretty much kind of dictates, kind of which way we're going to go, or our thought process at least. And so just digging deeper with people and getting a better understanding of kind of their background and their motives behind saving. So
I think you said it a few minutes ago that was very impactful, and it goes along with what I want to ask you next. Was you mentioned about having a long-term focus versus the short-term focus. And another verse, same thing, 1 Timothy 6:9, it says, "But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition." And I thought about that. Like you said, you can't think of people who are wealthy as evil. But if we have this get rich quick mentality, a lot of times we will compromise, or we will compromise our integrity to do something that it's not of God, because I see a chance to get over. And the enemy is going to make sure there's opportunities that we can invest in that will allow us to have a quick come up. But yet at the same time, you've sacrificed all of who you were for that come up. I mean, Judas sacrificed who he was for 33 pieces of silver. Or 30 pieces of silver. 33 was Jesus' age. All these numbers up here. Stop.
I'm with you. I'm following
you. Yeah. So, you think about that, the get rich quick mentality. I'm sure you see that a lot, and you have to try to slow everybody down. I know I've been getting a lot of emails from my the guy who's looking over my brokerage and like, hey, don't worry about what you're seeing in the market. Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Everything will work out, because I guess a lot of people, and of course, I don't have as much invested as somebody else who might be like, hey, what happened to my 1.8 million? It's down to 700,000. Something's going on. My little $30. I know it'll come back up, but just
Mm-hmm.
learning to be content, I think, is my greatest. I think because like I said, I'm not a big spender. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with having the phone until it dies. I'm okay with driving my car until it dies. I try to take care of them so they will die a long time from now, but I don't have to have the
Right.
newest, the greatest, the whatever. But at the same time, when I'm done working, I don't want to think about working anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go out. If I want to play golf every day, I want to be able to do that without even thinking about it. Me and my wife want to just get up and go to wherever on vacation. I don't want to have to plan for it. I want to be able to just write a check and just fly. And
Mm-hmm.
I think being content now, and like you said, being a giver, learning to be a giver, learning the concepts that make things continue, the cycles to continue to flow properly in our lives. I think that's been, the blessing of learning those things for myself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that I got a pretty good financial advisor. Yeah. All right. So I think we have to make smart decisions every day when it comes to our finances, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we can live a rich life in the end. And when I say rich, I don't just mean rich as in monetary. I mean, because like you said, when you can help your children go to college and not let them start their life out in debt, to me, that's rich.
Yes.
You're when you can pour into the church has a need and you have the ability to help meet that need. To me, that is rich. You don't
Yes.
have to have so much money that when I make, because it's a sacrifice. A lot of times it is a sacrifice. And my pastor would say, if it doesn't cost you anything, it's not a sacrifice. If I
Right.
reach in my pocket and pull out $5 and give it to the man on the street, that really wasn't a sacrifice, because I know I've got 5 more at home, or, whatever in
Mm-hmm.
the bank account. But if there's a need and I'm like, ooh, 10,000, I'm like, man, if I give 10,000, I got to start back over and building up my
Right.
that special account. That is a sacrifice. So that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to learn now, making good decisions every day with the finances. So my question to you is, what's the best financial decision you've ever made?
Mm.
The best.
I would say
Hold on.
it's funny because
Everybody get your pencil ready. Write this down.
it's really nothing that crazy. We literally, when Nick and I were in college, we worked at UPS.
Mm-hmm.
And so UPS is still right around the corner from Alabama A&M University. And so a lot of students would work there part-time, go to work 4 hours, go back to class. They were very flexible. And we just would sit around, and you got all these old guys, the drivers and the trailer drivers would be just chit-chatting about, the stock and 401k and this, that, and the other. And I'll never forget, one of the older drivers, the more seasoned guys, was like, y'all need to get in this stock option plan so they can take the money out your paycheck and they'll just go ahead and, buy the stock for you. Now, mind you, we're 19, 20
Right.
years old. It was like, okay, whatever, we'll do it just because he said so. And we kind of valued his opinion because we had been working there for so long with him. And so we set it up where, put a little bit from our paycheck would go in to purchase UPS stock. Now, this was before the UPS was actually on the stock market. You had to work there in order to purchase their individual stock. So I'll never forget, then the talk became, UPS is getting ready to go IPO. So that means that they're getting ready to go onto the stock market for anybody to purchase. Yes. Yeah. And so I'll never forget that. And so we had been purchasing stock all this time through payroll. So then they suspended where you can't purchase before it goes on the open market. But I just remember the stock price jumping up, and I was looking at our little statements and was like, so, we've been putting this little bit of money in, and now that the stock is out on the open market and people are purchasing, it just skyrocketed from there.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, listen to the old heads when they know what they're talking about.
listen to the old heads and do your research.
Do your
So we
research.
definitely, yes, we reaped the benefit of that most certainly. And like I said, we were younger at the time and didn't really fully understand what we were doing,
Yeah.
but that was probably one of the best decisions we ever made.
Awesome. And hence your favorite book is Proverbs. Look at that wisdom. All right. So I just asked you the best financial decision you've made. You know I got to ask the worst. What's the worst financial decision you've made?
That's easy. That's easy. So once I finished my degree at A&M, I started my graduate degree there, but I ended up moving here to Nashville and started my MBA at TSU. So I transferred, still working on the MBA program. And at the time, I was getting student loans and had no idea that after a year, I should apply for in-state tuition.
Apply for in-state tuition?
Yes. And so I ended up getting my master's degree at TSU after living here way longer than I should have, paying out-of-state tuition.
Wow.
That had to be one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. And I tried to reach back out to them after the fact, like, hey, I was living here. I've been living here. And it's like, oh, well, there was a form you should have filled out.
Can I post-date that?
Right, exactly. Oh, I was furious with myself.
Gosh.
But once again, going back to listening to counsel at this time, I mean, Nick, my husband, and I are both first-time college graduates. We didn't have anybody telling us this is how you navigate financial aid. This is what you're supposed to do. Well, don't get this student loan. Get this grant. No one was telling us that. 25 years ago, and so it was very disheartening to find out that I paid out-of-state tuition when I could have been paying in-state for my graduate degree.
Wow. Yeah. It's funny because
I could tear up just thinking about it.
Man, all them thousands, I could have done with those. Yeah. I think about it. When I was at TSU for my undergrad, I came home from the Navy. I started school and my mom worked at TSU. So my tuition was 50% off. Right.
Yes.
So I'm looking at people's receipts from the bursar's office and I'm taking 20 hours. Right. Because I'm 20, 21, about to be 21, but my mindset is different because I'm a grown man by then, even though I'm 20 years old. I've seen the world. I'm focused. I'm ready to learn. So everybody's taking 13 hours because that's the minimum you got to take to be full time. I'm like, 13, give me 20 hours and I'm hustling.
Yes.
My tuition now for 20 hours was $950 some bucks a semester. Right. Yep. I looked over at one of the guys from out of state tuition. He was paying like $6,000. I was like, dude, never tell them how much you're paying. These people would be so livid if they knew you were paying less than $1,000 to take 3 more classes than they're taking. And of course, I graduated in 3.5 years where they may still be at TSU right now. Who knows, because they wanted to take the easy road out, So that those decisions do, man. And even like you said, 20 years later, you still shake your head like, hey,
yes,
I wish
absolutely.
I could go back. Yeah,
absolutely.
I guarantee you, Tyson and them won't make those choices. They mama gonna be on it.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. But it just goes back to the generationally, speaking, that knowledge that we have, that experience that we have, we can pass that on. And then so they're, Tyson and Savannah will, have that knowledge, and then their kids will have the knowledge. So it's just one of those things, like I said, being the first generation going to college is so much that we bumped our heads on, but at the same time, we have that knowledge now that we can pass on to our kids.
Right. First-hand experience.
Yes.
Say, I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I did.
What I know.
Yeah, I'm telling you how I'm still feeling it. I'm a great grandmama, still mad at TSU, boy. All right, so I got 2 more questions for you, and then I will let you get back to work. What are some basic steps that you recommend every person follow when focusing on their finances?
Well, we follow a lot of Dave Ramsey's plan. Our firm partners with him with just planning in general. So, of course, like I said, there you go. Definitely, we kind of do it as a tiered process. So we always encourage people to give. some people can argue, the old law versus the new law when it comes to tithing. But at the end of the day, you give of your heart. Yeah. So we encourage people to do that and be good stewards and save. So give, save, however much it is that you feel like is your comfort level. I think I saw a quote or a statistic that, more than 50% of Americans, if they had a $500 emergency, wouldn't be able to take care of that emergency. Yeah. So we want to have, savings available. And before we even get to, the investing and all that, because it doesn't make sense for me to advise, buy this mutual fund, let's save towards this goal. And you don't even have money if your car, you need new tires. Right. So when we're talking foundational things, like I said, give, save, we want to make sure that you're insured, especially those individuals that have families. And that goes back to being a good steward. If something were to happen to you, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure that your family's taken care of. And so we want to make sure that insurance is in place to take care of the family in the event that, you pass away. Right. Not a conversation that most people want to talk about, but taxes and death, those are two certain things. So give, save, insure, and then we kind of get into investing, Roth IRAs and things of that nature. And then finally, legacy building. And so those are kind of our 5 tenets, or at least mine when I'm looking at working with a client. Give, save, insure, invest, and leaving a legacy.
I like it. Yeah, because I think one of the first things we did, I'll never forget, that was when we first met you. You came over the house and we got our life insurance together, me and my wife, when we first got married. And then we fed you this fine cuisine. Then now that I realize that you're a foodie, you probably laughed at us. You walked out, I can't believe they gave me a baked potato and some chicken tenders.
Sure, I tore it up too.
No, you ate it good because you was like, you think I can come back next week for some more of them chicken tenders? Yeah, because my wife can't cook, so that was like, no, I'm serious. I do all the cooking, but in all honesty, she's a great cleaner, so we have a great connection. I cook, she cleans, and then yeah,
it works out.
It works. Yep. All right, the final question, and I do appreciate your time. I always ask this as the final question for my special guest. Tell me, who is that one person in your life that lived their life so much like Christ that it inspired you to surrender your heart? Who is that one person?
Yeah, my grandmother. She, her name is Maggie. And so, like I said, we've always either lived with her or she lived with us just my whole adult life until I left not adult life, but until I went to college. And so her example, just the foundation that she laid, there was no shame. I mean, she was one literally when she answered the phone, and it's still kind of a joke now, she will answer, "Peace be unto you." So it wasn't hello, or this is the Lethbridge residence, or it was "Peace be unto you." So it's kind of funny because we tease about that now that she's passed on, but it was just a joy in her heart that, and there was no shame. So she would, talk to strangers. She would, give to random people. And so I would say definitely she was my biggest inspiration. So.
All right. Shout out Granny. Appreciate you for working hard to share that example for your granddaughter, who is now blessing thousands upon thousands. So Granny's work was not in vain.
Absolutely.
Well, Mrs. Jones, thank you so much. You've been an awesome guest. And I pray that everyone who listens to this podcast, their hearts swell. And in case you need any more clients or customers, I don't know how it works now. I know you've moved on, but if you have any information you'd like to share with the listeners, how they can contact you if you need them to, you can share that information now.
Well, we do have just our basic website is southwesterninvestmentgroup.com. So it's actually swinvestmentgroup.com. That's our website. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to find me online.
Awesome. That's Elisa Jones, everybody. Thank you so much, Elisa. You are the best.
Thank you.